Today, we're diving into a story about a fight for justice that has been going on for nearly 2 decades. It's a story that really pulls back the curtain on a broken system, one where the innocent get punished while the people who did the real damage just walk away. And this quote from Claudia Reid, it really says it all. It's just an incredible summary of the injustice here. She was the low-level employee on the phone, the one who had to listen to the victims of a huge scam. And for 18 years, she's the one who has paid the price. So how does something like this even happen? Well, it all starts with what she calls the 18-year Blackball, a completely silent ordeal that was quietly destroying her career year after year. I want you to just imagine this for a second. You're good at your job, you get hired, you're doing great. And then, boom, you're fired. No real reason, no warning. For Claudia, this became a recurring nightmare. And the craziest part? For almost 20 years, she was being punished for something she didn't even know she was connected to. I mean, just look at this timeline. It is staggering. She leaves Americorp way back in 2008, but this blackball follows her all the way to 2025. That's a huge chunk of her professional life spent in this kind of purgatory before she could even figure out what was happening and start to fight back. Okay, so to really understand the blackball, we have to go back to the beginning, to the crime that kicked this whole thing off. And this wasn't some small-time thing. This was a massive $102 million scam. This number right here, this is where it all began. Over $102 million. That's how big the civil fraud judgment against Americorp was. This was a colossal theft that absolutely destroyed the lives of hundreds of thousands of people. So how'd they pull it off? It was this deceptively simple scam they called the 11-month hold. People who were already desperate for debt help would pay hundreds of dollars a month. But for almost a whole year, Americorp would just sit on the money, skimming fees. Creditors never saw a dime, so client credit scores were ruined. And when checks finally did go out, they bounced. Claudia was the one on the phone, reading scripts, taking the calls from furious, heartbroken victims. And this is the core of the injustice, right here. On one side, you've got Timothy McCallan, the guy who masterminded the whole thing. He served a couple of years, and not even for the fraud, but for hiding the money he made from it. And on the other side, you have Claudia Reid, a phone rep reading from a script, who got hit with an 18-year career death sentence. So you're probably wondering, what about the people who were responsible? Well, they landed on their feet, no problem. McCallan is doing some consulting work now. The former CFO, she's the CEO of another company. They basically just rebranded and moved on, while innocent employees like Claudia were left completely unemployable. So the big question is, how could a blackball like this even work so silently for so long? The answer isn't people, it's technology. And this is where things get kind of dystopian. See, nobody was picking up the phone to badmouth her to future employers. This was all automated. Background check systems used AI, saw Americorp on her resume, connected it to that huge fraud judgment, and bam, automatically slapped a high-risk label on her. It was an instant disqualification, with no human, no context, no nuance. And these are the giants pulling the strings behind the scenes. Companies like Sterling, Checkr, and HireRight, their systems are built for speed and scale, not for fairness. They just scrape court records and public data, creating this permanent red flag that follows people like Claudia around forever, lumping a low-level phone rep in with the actual criminals who ran the company. And look, you have to understand, this is not some one-off story. The data shows this is a massive systemic problem. About 15% of all workers feel like they've faced unlawful job discrimination. But that number just explodes for Black workers and for women. It shows you how these automated systems can just pour gasoline on existing biases. Her fight is part of something much, much bigger. Okay, so when you're up against an invisible wall made of algorithms, what can you even do? This is where the story pivots. It becomes a playbook, a guide for how to actually fight back. While your first weapon is actually a federal law, the Fair Credit Reporting Act, or FCRA. It was designed to protect people from exactly this kind of situation. It gives you the legal right to see what's in your file and to demand that any inaccurate or incomplete information gets corrected. And here's how you can actually use it. It's a pretty straightforward 3-step process. First, you get your free report. Second, you dispute the negative mark in writing, and you attach proof. In Claudia's case, the court judgment that proves she wasn't a liable party. And third, if they don't fix it, you escalate it by filing a complaint with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. It's a really powerful tool. But, cleaning up your own file, that's just defense. To get real justice for what happened, you can't just defend, you have to go on offense. And this is the offense. A federal whistleblower report filed directly with the FBI. It doesn't just ask to clear her name, it calls for a full-blown criminal investigation into the original crimes. We're talking wire fraud, mail fraud, money laundering, a suspicious death of an accountant, and the real heavy hitter, RICO. Now, RICO, that's the nuclear option. It's a law that was literally created to take down the mafia. But today, it's the government's best weapon against complex, organized financial crime. It's not about prosecuting one person, it's about dismantling the entire criminal enterprise. And when you look at the Americorp case, it's like a textbook example of why RICO exists. You need an enterprise? Check. They had executives and shell companies all working together. You need a pattern of racketeering? Check. They had thousands of acts of fraud. And you need continuity? Check. The whole scam ran for years, and the masterminds are still in business. It ticks every box. So, what would a RICO conviction actually mean? Well, it means real consequences, not a slap on the wrist. We're talking 20+ years in prison for the people at the top. The seizure of every single dollar they stole. And finally, some public vindication for all the low-level employees who were wrongly punished for all those years. And this is the really powerful part. Think about it. This all started with one person who refused to stay quiet. Her detailed, evidence-backed report could be the very thing that finally triggers a real criminal investigation into a crime that has gone unpunished for way too long. And all of this really leaves us with one big question. This is more than just one person's story. It's a playbook. But can the actions of one individual armed with the right tools truly force a reckoning with an automated, indifferent system that has failed not just her, but millions of others? That's what we're about to find out.